Haeinsa is a Buddhist temple in Gaya National Park, South Gyeongsang Province, South Korea. It is the head temple of the Janggyeong order of Korean Buddhism. Haeinsa is most notable for being the home of the Tripitaka Koreana, the whole of the Buddhist scriptures carved onto 81,350 wooden printing blocks, which it has housed since 1398. Haeinsa is one of the three jewels temples and represents Dharma, or the Buddha's teachings. It is still an active Seon practice center in modern times and was the home temple of the influential Seon master Janggyeong, who died in 1993.
The temple was first built in 802. Legend says that two monks of royal Gaya descent, Sunoong and Ijong, returned from Tang, China, and healed Zhang of Sila's wife of her illness. In gratitude for Gautama Buddha's mercy, the king ordered the construction of the temple. Another account, by Choi Chi-wan in 900 states that Sunoong and his disciple Ijong gained the support of a queen dowager who converted to Buddhism and then helped to finance the construction of the temple. The temple complex was renovated in the 10th century, 1488, 1622, and 1644 respectively. Hurang, the temple abbot, enjoyed the patronage of Taejo of Goryeo during that king's reign. Haeinsa was burned down in a fire in 1817 and was rebuilt in 1818. Another renovation in 1964 uncovered a royal robe of Gwanghaigun of Joseon, who was responsible for the 1622 renovation, and an inscription on a ridge beam. The main hall, Daejo Panjeon, is unusual because it is dedicated to Vairocana, whereas most other Korean temples house images of Gautama Buddha in their main halls. The Temple of Haeinsa and the depositories for the Tripitaka Koreana woodblocks were made a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1995. The UNESCO committee noted that the buildings housing the Tripitaka Koreana are unique because no other historical structure was specifically dedicated to the preservation of artifacts, and the techniques used were particularly ingenious. The temple also holds several official treasures, including a realistic wooden carving of a monk and interesting Buddhist paintings, stone pagodas, and lanterns. During the Korean War, the area surrounding Haeinsa Temple was a site of conflict between North Korean guerrillas and the Allied forces of South Korea and the United Nations Command. In September of 1951, during an anti-guerrilla bombing campaign, Air Force Colonel Kim Young-hwan was ordered to destroy the temple. He refused, instead leading his squad of fighter jets over the temple without dropping a single bomb.
The storage halls known as the Janggyeong Panjeon complex are the depository for the Tripitaka Koreana woodblocks at Haeinsa, and were also designated by the Korean government as a national treasure on December 20th, 1962. They are some of the largest wooden storage facilities in the world. Remarkably, the halls were untouched during the Japanese invasions of Korea from 1592 to 1598, and were spared from the 1818 fire that burned most of the temple complex down. All told, the storage halls have survived 7 serious fires and 1 near bombing during the Korean War, when a pilot disobeyed orders because he remembered that the temple held priceless treasures. Janggyeong Panjeon complex is the oldest part of the temple and houses the 81,258 wooden printing blocks from the Tripitaka Koreana. Although the exact construction date of the hall that houses the Tripitaka Koreana is uncertain, it is believed that Seijo of Joseon expanded and renovated it in 1457. The complex is made up of 4 halls arranged in a rectangle, and the style is very plain because of its use as a storage facility. The northern hall is called Beopajan, or Hall of Dharma, and the southern hall is called the Sudarajan, or Hall of Sutras. These 2 main halls are 60.4 meters in length, 8.73 meters in width, and 7.8 meters in height. Both have 15 rooms with 2 adjoining rooms. Additionally, there are 2 small halls on the east and west, which house 2 small libraries. Several ingenious preservation techniques are utilized to preserve the wooden printing blocks. The architects also utilized nature to help preserve the Tripitaka. The storage complex was built at the highest point of the temple and is 655 meters above sea level. Janggyeong Panjeon faces southwest to avoid damp southeasterly winds from the valley below and is blocked from the cold north wind by mountain peaks. Different sized windows on the north and south sides of both main halls are used for ventilation, utilizing principles of hydrodynamics. The windows were installed in every hall to maximize ventilation and regulate temperature. The clay floors were filled with charcoal, calcium oxide, salt, lime, and sand, which reduce humidity when it rains by absorbing excess moisture, which is then retained during the dry winter months. The roof is also made with clay, and the bracketing and wood rafters prevent sudden changes in temperature. Additionally, no part of the complex is exposed to sun. Apparently, animals, insects, and birds avoid the complex, but the reason for this is unknown. These sophisticated preservation measures are widely credited as the reason the woodblocks have survived in such fantastic condition to this day.
The Tripitaka Koreana is a Korean collection of the Tripitaka, or Buddhist scriptures, carved onto 81,258 wooden printing blocks in the 13th century. They are currently located at the Buddhist temple Haeinsa in South Gyeongsang Province, South Korea. It is the oldest intact version of Buddhist canon in Hanja script. It contains 1,496 titles, divided into 6,568 books, spanning 81,258 pages, for a total of 52,330,152 Hanja characters. It is often called the Palman de Janggyeong, or 80,000 Tripitaka, due to the number of the printing plates that comprise it. It is also known as the Goryeo de Janggyeong, or Goryeo dynasty Tripitaka. Each woodblock or page measures 24 centimeters in height and 70 centimeters in length. The thickness of the blocks ranges from 2.6 to 4 centimeters, and each weighs about 3 to 4 kilograms. The wood blocks would be almost as tall as Paektu Mountain, at 2.74 kilometers if stacked, and would measure 60 kilometers long if lined up, and weigh 280 tons in total. The wood blocks are in pristine condition without warping or deformation, despite being created more than 750 years ago. The Tripitaka was designated a national treasure of South Korea in 1962 and inscribed in the UNESCO Memory of the World Register in 2007. Historically, the Tripitaka was closed except for Buddhist events and scholars, but in 2021, it was open to members of the public who pre-register. There is a movement by scholars to change the English name of the Tripitaka Koreana. Professor Robert Boswell Jr., a leading scholar of Korean Buddhism, called for the renaming of the Tripitaka Koreana to the Korean Buddhist canon, indicating that the current nomenclature is misleading because the Tripitaka Koreana is much greater in scale than the actual Tripitaka and includes much additional content such as travelogues, Sanskrit and Chinese dictionaries, and biographies of monks and nuns. The name Goryeo Tripitaka comes from Goryeo, the name of Korea from the 10th to the 14th centuries. Work on the first Tripitaka Koreana began in 1011 during the Goryeo-Khitan War and was completed in 1087. Choi's Goryeo military regime, which moved the capital to Ganghwa Island due to Mongol invasions, set up a temporary organization called Daejang Dogum. The act of carving the wood blocks was considered to be a way of bringing about a change in fortune by invoking the Buddha's help. The first Tripitaka Koreana was based primarily on the Kaibao canon completed in the 10th century, but other scriptures published until then, such as the Khitan Tripitaka, were also consulted in order to identify items in need of revision and adjustment. The first Tripitaka Koreana contained around 6,000 volumes. The original set of woodblocks was destroyed by fire during the Mongol invasions of Korea in 1232, when Goryeo's capital was moved to Ganghwa Island during nearly 3 decades of Mongol incursions, although scattered parts of its prints still remain. To once again implore divine assistance with combating the Mongol threat, King Gojong thereafter ordered the revision and recreation of the Tripitaka. The carving began in 1237 and was completed in 12 years, with support from Cho-u and his son Cho-hang, and involving monks from both the Sion and Gyo schools. This second version is usually what is meant by the Tripitaka Koreana. In 1398, it was moved to Haeinsa, where it has remained housed in 4 buildings. The production of the Tripitaka Koreana was an enormous national commitment of money and manpower, according to Robert Boswell Jr., perhaps comparable to the US 1960s Apollo program moon landings. Thousands of scholars and craftsmen were employed in this massive.
Don't forget to subscribe to World Wonders Unveiled and turn on notifications.